Well, I first want to give a shout out to Susan Tripp, who very boldly and authentically shared her story a couple of weeks ago, and I drew some courage from that as I was writing my cathartic story. So first of all, let's be clear. I'm still walking this journey. I have not arrived at any particularly neat and tidy destination. I'm still a seeker, continually looking for meaning in what I profess, what I do, and what I believe. So today is an opportunity to stop journeying and reflect, to let the soul catch up to the traveler, as an African tale suggests. There have been many pivotal moments in my 60-plus years, some requiring significant sustained attention, and other moments appeared with less fanfare, like a knowing smile and a nod of the head. But all have forced me to consider my truth, my center. Events themselves are not meaningful without the thoughts and feelings that come with them. So I'll tell you the part of my story when I truly learned to forgive another person, my mother. I'm the oldest of three, born to farming parents in Johnston County, North Carolina. My father dropped out of school in the 9th grade to take over the farm after his dad died of a brain tumor. My mother finished high school and was a stay-at-home mom until we were older and more money was needed for the teenage years and college. Cashiering in a small independent grocery provided her work. I had a stereotypical and somewhat romanticized baby boomer childhood with a farm girl twist on it. Summers were the best, even though I worked in tobacco from age 9 until 16. There was summer swimming in local irrigation ponds with a lookout posted for water snakes. Rides in the open bed of a pickup truck with stops at Jabez Oliver's store for banana popsicles. And sleepovers in the top of a girlfriend's old tobacco barn with 5 other 7th graders, complete with the smoke of my first and last cigarette. Not everything, however, was idyllic. Mother was unpredictable, with dark moods that shifted as quickly as the clouds that covered a summer sun, and then just as suddenly drifted away to allow bright sunlight. When she was angry, you made yourself scarce, as the old folks like to say. If you were the object of her anger, she could wield a belt ferociously, occasionally draw blood, but always leave physical marks that lasted for days. But when the sun came from behind that cloud, she could surprise you with popcorn and ginger ale ice cream floats while you were sprawled on the floor watching a Saturday night episode of Gunsmoke. Mother was nothing if not complicated. I recall the time she went toe-to-toe with the pious Southern Baptist church ladies who did not want to invite a black family living near the church to attend. It was the violently racist early 60s, and Mother lost that battle, along with losing some sisters-in-law as well. You see, my mother was reared by her grandmother and an uncle. Never knowing her biological father, she understood at a visceral level what it meant to be an outsider. The following platitudes, however, were shared by both parents and pronounced early and often to keep me, my sister Lynn, and brother Chris on the straight and narrow. Work hard at everything: schoolwork, summer work, farm work. Don't talk back. Always tell the truth. Be kind. Respect your elders. Finish what you start and trust Jesus. I identified as a good girl and always wanted to get it right. Getting it right meant going to college, marrying a man who met my checklist. Yes, I had a checklist. Continuing Baptist church attendance, getting a job, raising a family, and my own success marker, never arguing with my husband about anything, ever. You see, I watched my parents' marriage fall apart during my college years, but I learned most of the horrible things from my siblings still at home. Like the Christmas break of my freshman year when Lynn and I were in a dressing room in Belk's department store in Goldsboro trying on clothes, and she says, "Mother tried to kill herself, but Daddy broke the locked bedroom door and wrestled the pistol away. He put her in He put her in the car and told Chris and me not to worry. They would be back soon. 15-year-old Lynn hid the pistol that night while they were away. I'm sorry. I practiced this several times and I still can't get through it without being emotional. It was a very cathartic experience. And I need to write more, quite frankly. Oh, there was never a divorce, just one-sided fights, mother yelling. I remember a lot of yelling growing up, and Daddy leaving the house when he couldn't hold his tongue any longer. I was married with a 5-year-old and a 1-month-old, both daughters, when the call came that Daddy had died from a second heart attack, occurring within 2 years of the first one. With Daddy dead at 56 and Mother widowed at 53, many years of chaos followed. Despite the unhappy marital relationship, Mother's strength had been bolstered by playing off of Daddy's weaknesses. He had been the foil to her life. Who was she now without a husband? She learned the harsh reality that it's a couple's world, and friendships fall away when you are no longer a couple. She self-medicated with alcohol and sleeping pills, mismanaged her finances, and generally drifted through life, entertaining a series of desperate relationships that ultimately left her with less money and no love. When her 3 grown children finally stepped in for safety reasons, there was significant cognitive decline from frontal lobe damage, and getting any cooperation from her was like crossing a mined battlefield. Explosions could occur at any time. I was so angry. How dare you do this to the family? And I felt superior. I'll never hurt my children. A bad combination of emotions. Yet we all have an emotional life, and we wall ourselves off from the full range of our emotions at our own peril. Strong, unhealthy attachments to anything can lead to delusion, arrest development, and short-circuit the cultivation of wisdom. To continue borrowing from the teachings of Jon Kabat-Zinn, concentration by itself resembles a state of withdrawal from the world. Its characteristic energy is closed rather than open, absorbed rather than available, trance-like rather than fully awake. And I was absorbed in my own life and resolute in angry blame and denial about my mother's problems. Unconsciously, I had made her the foil to my life. But hey, I was still the good girl until I wasn't. My divorce came in the middle of Mother's drama, and it was a shameful, humbling experience. I learned what it's like to have years of repressed emotions and unfulfilled dreams demand to be acknowledged. Divorce is tough on children, and I was humbled by the pain my daughters endured. Divorce is tough on friends, and I lost some. Divorce is tough on self-esteem, and I had a lot of rebuilding to do. Divorce is even tougher on faith when you are no longer the good one. According to contemporary writer Michael Erickson, soul work is not a high road. It's a deep fall into an unforgiving darkness that won't let you go until you find the song that sings you home. That's the song that sung me home was one of humility and genuine empathy for my mother. And I spent the next 12 years while Mother was in assisted living and then a memory disorder unit, offering her grace, love, and understanding, even if cognitively she didn't always know. She's gone now, allowed to die from a severely broken hip at 82. Her hip broke clean through the bone and shifted way out of place. Surgery was not an option due to her porous soft bones, and cognitively she could not participate in rehabilitation even if surgery was an option. Whose mother dies from a broken hip? With her health care power of attorney in hand, my sister and I made the painful decision to put her in hospice care. No one could fully understand that decision but the compassionate nurse I met in the ARMC emergency room that awful night, my sister and me. We sat vigil at hospice in Smithville, North Carolina, a location that allowed Mother's remaining siblings the opportunity to say goodbye. Our vigil lasted 1 week while a morphine drip kept Mother as comfortable as possible. When the hospice nurse called us to say time was close, we gathered around her bed, my sister, my first cousin who's like a second sister, my brother, and me. With our hands touching her body, I said, "We're all here, Mom. We're all here." With those words, her choppy breath settled into a calm, smooth, rhythmic flow, and within 15 seconds, it stopped. Relationships between mothers and daughters are complicated at best. And for sure, there is never enough time to get used to the role shift where the daughter becomes the parent before you have to take it on full throttle. My sister and I have reflected on those challenging years and our mother. We are convinced that she was undiagnosed bipolar. Mother spent her life fighting something she could not name. Mental illness is the only thing that explains what we experienced over time. All families are full of complex and frequently flawed characters. I spent so much energy trying to be the perfect child, and I did not achieve that ridiculous goal. Instead, I learned that perfection is not really lovable. It's the clumsiness of a fault or a mistake that makes us lovable. I learned to forgive Mother and ultimately forgive myself. I learned it's best to explore our family roots in the various actors with a sense of curiosity and entertain thoughts like, "Now, that's interesting. I wonder what that's all about." Curiosity opens the way to love and compassion and ultimately self-understanding. After all, most of the people we meet in life are just trying to heal. And like the rest of us, sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. In closing, I believe it's vitally important that we live awake, mindful of the present. Only in that state can we know if we are trying to be our best selves, not our perfect selves. Mindfulness, consciousness, breath, not ego and overthinking make this happen. You see, if we're only fully awake during pain and difficulty, we run the risk of defining our lives by that chaos. It's important to look for and see order and harmony in the day-to-day, which in turn help us make sense of and engage with the episodic disharmony. Rather than hiding from it or trying to numb it, I want to learn to live from a place of abundance and generosity, not scarcity of spirit and goodwill. Because at the deepest level, according to Kabat-Zinn, there is no gift, there is no recipient, only the universe rearranging itself. Journeys of change continue. Travel boldly, and thank you for listening.